Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Good morning, guys. How are we doing on this Friday?
Good morning. Yeah, 3 down, 5 to go, Jenny.
5 to go.
Appreciate that, Skip.
Joe Harris owes me 3 cases of Diet Mountain Dew. We'll get to him in just a moment. But remember, Mr. Sharpe, he who laughs last laughs best.
Yeah.
We still have 5 cases on Game 7 back in Brooklyn. Here we go.
Okay.
So you got your 3 cases.
And by the way, you are now home in Atlanta where you will officially jinx your Hawks tonight against the Sixers.
I might go to the game.
Well,
I might pull up at the game.
You might doom them.
We might see you courtside at some point. All right, we're going to get to them. I promise you that. But yes, because Shannon won those 3 cases, we've got to talk about why the Bucks beat the Nets last night to force a Game 7 after Chris Middleton and Giannis combined for 68 points. And Milwaukee's starting lineup scored 100 of 104 points. Kevin Durant, coming off his epic performance, Game 5, led the Nets with 32 points and 11 rebounds. Game 7 will be Saturday in Brooklyn, and don't worry, we got more due on that one. Shannon, what is the biggest reason the Bucks won?
Well, the big 2 for the Milwaukee Bucks showed up and they showed out, Skip. Chris Middleton was sensational. Giannis was great also. Skip, when I look at Chris Middleton, 38, 10, and 5 with 5 steals. Played the first 2. The first 2 games, Skip, that was the reason why they lost. I mean, that's why they were blown out. That's not the reason they lost. But you can't shoot 6 of 23. You can't shoot as bad as he was shooting and expect to hold suit, especially when Kyrie was there and James Harden wasn't. But if you look since Game 2, Game 3 and beyond, Chris Middleton has been sensational. He's played very, very well. Skip, Giannis, 11 of 15 in the lane. Only took 5 shots outside of the paint with no threes. 13 shot at the rim. 8 fouls drawn. That's the way they need to play. Skip, I'm watching the game last night. They are so frustrated. Skip, Giannis comes down. He lays the ball up twice, and then his next possession, he shoots an 18-footer. Holiday can get at the rim at will. He's shooting step back, off-balance threes. I'm like, why are y'all doing this? Do you understand? Brooklyn has no rim protection. They have no one that can stop you from getting to where you want to be. And you're bailing them out. You're keeping them in this game. I just kept waiting for the game to be over at half, Skip, because they could get to the rim at will. But for some reason, they want to show, well, you know, this is what we did in the regular season. This is who we are. But when you have a situation, you're so much longer and taller, you're more athletic than the team that you're playing against. Take advantage of that. Get to the rim. Skip, Holiday, he was just driving me nuts last night, Skip. I'm watching him handle the ball. And in 2 possessions, Skip, he's laying it up with his left hand off the glass. And in the next possession, he'll come back and shoot a step-back 3. Skip, he's 1 for 10, and he keeps shooting like he's Steph or Dame. I'm like, Holiday, just go to the basket. You got Joe Harris on you, or you got James Harden on you, who has a bum leg, and he's doing everything he possibly can, Skip, not to do anything sudden. You notice he's not going to the paint. James is just shooting threes because he don't want to do anything that would aggravate or irritate that hamstring. But I thought they also did a better job of trying not to let KD play one-on-one. But they still, I believe, let him play one-on-one more than they should have. But I thought, Skip, the 48 total minutes that he played in the previous game, Skip, and he played, the first 20 minutes of this game before he got a break. It seems like he didn't have the legs because he went from shooting, let me make sure I get this right, Skip, he went from shooting, 17, 18 free throws to only shooting 2. So that tells me he didn't have the legs that he had the previous day. So now you can somewhat neutralize it because we're talking about like Kevin Durant played bad. He was still 50% and had 32-11, Skip. That just goes to show you the level of greatness that he is. But I thought the Bucks, big 2, Middleton and Giannis, they got help from Holiday. When your big 3 scores 89 of your 104 points, Skip, you're doing pretty good.
Okay, I'm assuming you're finished, which means it's my turn because I have a whole lot to say about what I unfortunately had to watch last night. Let's start with the fact that, as you say, thanks to holiday. It was no holiday last night for my Nets. But the point was, he did go 1 of 10 from 3 last night. And the point was, your team that won you 3 cases of dew went 7 of 33 from 3 last night. That's 21%. They left the door wide open for the Nets to do what the Nets keep doing to them, which is to come back and snatch another one on the road.
Correct.
So what happened with 8:41 left in the basketball game last night in Milwaukee? Joe Harris, who's been in the worst slump of his career shooting threes, a guy who has won the three-point shootout on All-Star Weekend, the guy who led the league in three-point percentage shooting this year. Joe Harris finally made his first 3 of the night. He wound up 1 of 4, but he finally made one. If we could see this. Joe Harris, it went in, and he runs back up the court yelling, "I can do this, I got this," like out of his mind, like he lost his mind. And suddenly, if we could see, here's the shot, and then could we see what then ensued at the other end? Joe Harris went completely over the edge, and here comes your man, Chris Middleton, down. Here we are. And he says, "I'm going to block his three-point shot," and he just grabbed his arm as he went up to shoot it. It was a horrendous foul, and Steve Nash thought about challenging it, and Joe Harris ran over and said, no, I got him. And what did Chris Middleton do, as he is wont to do on nights at home? He went and made all 3 free throws. And what did your Fear the Deers do from that point forward? They went ballistic on the Nets. They went on a 14-0 run off that sequence we just saw. And Kevin Durant took 1 3 in that sequence and missed it. And he finally stopped the bleeding with one last dunk. And that was the only 2 points he scored over the last 8:41 of this basketball game that was begging to be won. And by the way, I forgot to throw in the fact that that 3 cut it to 5. So at 8:41 left, it was a 5-point game, and Shannon Sharpe had given me 5.5 points. So with 8:41 left, I actually led the basketball game. I was a half point ahead. And then that happened.
Skip, it's funny that you say that, because that's what I was thinking at the exact same thing at the exact same time. I'm like, damn, I'm a half a point behind now.
You're a half a point behind. So to your point, Kevin Durant hit the wall. He finally just ran out of gas. He obviously played a full 48 2 nights ago, and he was playing extremely high minutes up to the 8:41 mark last night, and he just hit the physical wall. He lost his legs. He just ran out of gas. And for those who don't follow these kinds of second-level stats, I checked on it this morning because my eye test told me I have never, ever seen Kevin Durant handle the basketball more than he did last night. Obviously, coming off his career-best game, he finally decided, I think I have to do this all by myself. Would you believe the ball was in his hands last night 45% of the night? Remember, Luka led the NBA this year in usage rate at 43%. So Kevin had by far the highest usage rate of any playoff game he's ever played, because Shannon, as we always talk about, he's the most efficient scorer ever. Correct. He doesn't need to take many shots. He'll catch and shoot a lot of shots. He'll get them. He doesn't have to dribble. But last night, he had to turn into James Harden because there was no James Harden to be found. What I was dumbstruck over, I was thunderstruck over, I was gobsmacked about was the reason I made that bet with you about last night and Game 7 was because I thought that James Harden, coming off playing 46 minutes on that balky hamstring, would be 50% quicker last night. He went the other way. He was more statuesque last night. He was more of a cardboard cutout last night than he was 2 nights before. I could not believe it. He became a supreme liability on offense as their playmaker and creator, and obviously on defense, where he just tries to hide in the middle of the lane. He did have 4 steals because he's a genius with the basketball, but it has to be right before him where he can get his hand on the basketball. Otherwise, he is protect the hamstring. And Shannon, I got to tell you, he was such a liability on offense that I believe there's only one coach who would have kept him in the game, and that is Steve Nash, who obviously played at a high level, back-to-back two-time MVP, and he was just doing it for the psyche of the team, just for the spirit of the team. Let's just keep him out there in presence only. I couldn't believe how little James Harden was able to do last night, and would you believe he had the ball in his hands 18%. That's by far the lowest he's ever had. He's led the league in usage rate twice in the 40s, but that's the lowest he's had since his days as the sixth man of the Oklahoma City Thunder back with Kevin and Russ back in their OKC days. So the point is, Kevin had the ball 45% in his hands. James had the ball 18% in his hands because he didn't want the ball in his hands. He could not create. He could not beat anybody off the dribble. He threatened nobody. And the irony was he did make 3 3-point shots. And Shannon, if you watch them closely, it's like he had to heave them. It's like he was shot putting them. He was throwing them because apparently he doesn't even trust his hamstring to push off and shoot a set shot, you know, a feet on the floor set shot, step back three. Well, how did that happen? Where he went the other way. So to me, I'm not surprised Kevin took them as far as he could take them last night. And now I get to lack of help. Obviously, Joe Harris was 1 of 4 from 3. But remember, Jeff Green, 48 hours before, had scored 27 points on 8 of 11 from the floor and 7 of 8 threes. Last night, Jeff Green went 2 of 9 and 1 of 4 from 3. Blake went 1 of 4 from 3, and Blake had made 3 of 6 back in game 5. So all of a sudden, you've got 3 starters going 1 of 4 from 3. Well, that won't work. And obviously, Joe Harris is the odd man out because he's going to get open looks if he really wants them. To me, Shannon, Joe Harris found the stage too big for him. He looks scared to me. And once a couple don't go in, he really started to pull that string, and he was short. You know, he wasn't following through. It got ugly. It got scary bad for Joe Harris. So when the role player, I know the biggest, oldest cliche in the NBA playoffs is role players don't play well on the road. They only play at home. Well, this was about as classic as no role players as you'll ever see.
Well, Skip, Joe Harris hadn't played well at home either. And you know this, Skip, as the rounds advance, the stage gets even larger. And so that's what we're starting to see. Plus, you don't have Kyrie. You don't have James Harden that's operating at his apex. So the wide open looks that he was getting against Boston, he isn't there. Also, Skip, since James Harden is a little hampered, they can switch 1 through 4 with him. If they can switch Giannis on him, they can switch P.J. Tucker, they can switch Middleton, they can switch Holiday. So it's not like he has an advantage, especially since he's somewhat limited with that hamstring. What they need is, Skip, even though Kevin Durant had a game for the ages, a historic game, a transcendent game, one of the best games that you've seen in the last 20 years. Without Jeff Green doing what he does, they don't win that game. Without Blake Griffin doing what he does, they don't win that game. So now you get Kevin Durant. He still gave you 32 and 11 on 50% shooting, but you got nothing else from no one else. Even though James Harden gave you 10 more points than what he gave you the previous game, you look at Jeff Green. He gave you what, 19, 20 points less than what he gave you? What about Blake? He gave you 10, 12 less than what he gave you? That was the difference in the ball game. Kevin Durant also, Skip, this is why I know he was tired. He had 7 turnovers. James Harden had 4. So 11 of the 16 turnovers that they had, the 2 primary ball handlers turned it over the most. So that's when I know fatigue was starting to set in, because I look at KD, and KD was a little careless with the basketball when as you mentioned, 48 hours earlier, he was sensational. He could do no wrong. But that was my only concern with Kevin Durant. I know he's going to be efficient, but could he put together another game like he had? I'm not saying, Skip, it's very rarely. I don't know if we've ever seen guys have historic games back-to-back. Now, if we want to go back and nitpick, says, okay, look at LeBron, what he did in the 2016 Game 5, 41-16 and 8, and then he turns around 41-11 and 7. But for Kevin Durant to ask KD to go, okay, KD, we need a 49-17, or how about a 45-14 14-10 ball game again. Skip, the role players are going to have to, especially with James being nicked. I'm worried about KD. Would I be surprised if KD gave you 40 and 10 on Saturday? Absolutely not. But I don't believe that will be enough unless he gets a major contribution from Jeff Green or Blake Griffin. Now, James Harden, Skip, for me, now he did play better. I thought he played better offensively than what he played. He was a little less hesitant. The shots didn't quite go in for James Harden. But, Skip, we know James Harden doesn't really like to play defense anyway. So to say that he's a liability on defense is really not saying much. But I thought Holiday did a better job of trying to attack him. I thought they did a better job of trying to attack him on the offensive end and not let him rest. KD was still resting because P.J. Tucker just hides out in the corner. But let's give Milwaukee, let's not just focus on what the Nets didn't do. Middleton and Giannis were sensational. Giannis was spectacular because he's driving the ball. If I'm Giannis, Skip, I'm going into Game 7. I'm not shooting anything outside of 10 feet. Chris Middleton did, and Holiday, bruh, you got an advantage over Harden, who can't move, Joe Harris, whose talent and skill set is not comparable to yours. You have a decided advantage. Why would you attempt that many threes, Skip? Why? Don't need it. I've given up with Brook Lopez, Skip. He's going to be 7'1", and he's just going to jack up threes no matter who's on him. Whether it's Mike James, Joe Harris, it does not matter who's guarding him. He's not going down in the paint to shoot the ball, to post up. So I've given up that. But the two superstars, and Holiday played sensational last night, and it was asking an awful lot for KD to come back and give you another one of those performances. And even if he had, without one of these other guys coming along with him, it still wasn't going to be enough to offset what the big three for the Brooklyn Nets, but the Bucks did last night.
So in the end, the Brooklyn Nets should be ashamed of themselves for losing by 15 in a closeout game to a team that at home made only 7 of 33 three-point attempts. 7 of 33.
Skip, this series should be over. The Milwaukee Bucks should be kicking their own booties self in the butt. They had Game 5, Skip. They had a 16-point lead. This series should be over.
Oh, you're looking at it the other way, and I'm looking at it this way. It should be over for the Nets. So, Shannon, here's my bottom line on James Harden. I am baffled to the point of tormented about what's going on with his balky hamstring. You have pulled hamstrings before. I pulled a few in my day. And we both know that once it's pulled, you are done. You cannot run through it. You can't tough through it. You can't pain threshold through the hamstring pull. It just shuts you down like nothing will. The largest muscle in the body, and when it goes, especially if it tears, you are shut down.
Right.
Okay, so what do we know about James Harden? Well, we know that he came back and played at a very high level, like a James Harden level, against Boston in the first round of the playoffs. An average, let's just do the closeout game. He went 34, 10, and 10. So that's James Harden. And then in the first few seconds of Game 1 against Milwaukee, it went again. And then once Kyrie went down with the bad ankle, then James sucked it up after a game and said, well, maybe I can try to go. Well, not only did he try in Game 5, but he played 46 minutes on a quote-unquote pulled hamstring. Well, in my experience, your experience, you can either go or you can't go. So if you can go for 46 minutes and actually play a semblance of basketball, it's probably getting a lot better. And if you can turn it around 48 hours later and play another 40, what was he, 40-some minutes last night? 40,
he played 40 minutes.
If you can do that, then it would seem to be on the mend. To me, it has to be more in his head than in his hamstring. That he's afraid of it pulling again when it's saying to him, the signals it's sending have to be, we're okay down here. We got it. We're back in business. And for whatever reason, he can't regain enough confidence to push off. He has no explosion whatsoever because he doesn't try to have any explosion.
Nope.
So I've never seen anything like a guy playing on a hamstring, but playing, I have to put quotes around because he's just shuffling through. And if we could see the first big telltale sign last night came with 4:26 left in the first quarter when he stole the ball, if we could see this, and looked like he had a breakaway, looked like he could have a solo breakaway. Took it away from Giannis, and he's off to the right. No, he's not. He wouldn't even try. He would not try to run. He just says, no, I'm out. And he circles and goes backwards and lets everybody run past him so he can just walk the ball up the floor and run a set play.
And that's what those hamstrings will do, Skip. You know it because, hey, you might want to step on it, and that thing said, nah, if I was you, I wouldn't do that.
I don't know if it's saying that or if he's just thinking that because he doesn't trust it at all.
No.
I can't even believe. To me, it's an either or. Either you can play or you can't play. And once you get out there, as you know, coming off a hamstring pull, there'll be a moment when you get back out there and you say, you know what? I'm good. It's okay now. I can go, and you keep trying a little more and a little more, and you say, I'm back. Well, he won't even try. He wouldn't try to go solo break.
Right.
And I don't know if it's in his head or if he's trying to protect it for the long haul because he knows that Kyrie's going to be out for a good while, maybe the rest of the postseason. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm going to give this up to you. We do have another 5 cases bet on Game 7.
Yes.
Fox Bet says it's a pick'em game, so it's even Steven. It's 50-50. And yet, if James Harden plays the way he does or did last night, I'm not sure I have a chance because I don't know if Kevin can do it solo. I'm afraid he's hitting the wall physically. I don't think he can play 48 minutes and score 49 points. I'm just not sure. And obviously, I would hope that Joe Harris would snap out of it, that Jeff Green would turn back to good old Uncle Jeff and make 7 of 8 threes at home, and that maybe Blake could make 3 threes. But I just don't, if there's no James and you're going to play him high minutes, he becomes such a liability that Kevin has to try to win in spite of James. Right. I just don't know if they can do it because obviously Milwaukee is a really good basketball team.
They are, Skip. But if you look at KD took 30 shots in this game in less minutes, and he took 23 shots in 48 minutes. Yeah. So what they're doing is like, we're going to make him work. Let's make him expend some energy. We know in order for them to have any chance, Kevin Durant has to be spectacular. So at least let's make him work. Let's make him work a little harder. Make him put up a little bit more, a few more shots. And if we can contest those, I thought Giannis did a great job of trying to defend him. And don't talk about if asked upon. Nah, don't nobody ask you. Say, hey, I'm going to take this challenge. Now, hey, if he gets it going at any point in time in this game, Bud, I'm going to slide to KD. And definitely in the last 5 minutes, if it's a nip and tuck ball game, I'm going to slide to KD. Don't let somebody have to, hey, man, won't you go on and take KD for it? Yeah. Nah, bro. You're Defensive Player of the Year. You're the MVP. Take that challenge. Take that responsibility. But, Skip, unless the role players, unless Jeff Green can give you one of those Game 5 moments, unless Blake Griffin, and we've seen him throughout the playoffs, have a 19 or 20-point ball game. If they can't give you one of those, I'm not so sure Kevin Durant can score enough in order to offset what we know the big two the Bucks have with Giannis and Middleton, especially if Giannis says, you know what, the hell with y'all. I'm going to the rim, and y'all can't do anything about it.
Okay, so obviously I'm not trying to welch on our bet, but I will tell you right here, right now, I will admit it publicly, that if I'd known yesterday what I now know about James Harden and his hamstring, there's no way I would have bet you what I bet you yesterday.
Okay. Well,
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You admit it. You admit it, Skip. Good on you. Good on you. Okay, can KD do it again? We will have to wait and see. I can't believe it's a pick'em game.
No mercy.
Despite being without Kawhi, the Clippers took a 3-2 series lead over the Jazz on Wednesday behind Paul George's 37 points and have a chance to close out the series tonight at home. Kawhi remains out for Game 6 with a sprained right knee, and for the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley are both questionable. The Clippers are just 1 game away from reaching the franchise's first conference finals, where the Suns await the winner of this series. So, Shannon, who you got? Who wins tonight?
Skip, I'm going to take the Jazz because I believe they'll play with a greater sense of urgency than what we saw in Game 5. Skip, I think the thing is that when we look at the Utah Jazz, they only have one star. They only have one guy that can go get his own shot anytime he wants to, and that's Donovan Mitchell. It's really hurt them that they haven't had Mike Conley because he's another guy that can get his shot, but he's also a guy that can handle the ball handling duties that takes some of the pressure off of Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a scorer. I don't look at Donovan Mitchell as one of these elite level point guards that can get everybody in and out of the offense. Yeah, he can pass the ball, but Mike Conley is a pure point guard who can score, but his number one priority is to make sure everybody else is fed, and then he will eat after that. So I believe that Utah will play with a greater sense of urgency, knowing that this is a game in which your superstar, Donovan Mitchell, needs to be spectacular. We've seen him be spectacular in all the games with the exception of Game 5, where he wasn't nearly as aggressive as he needed to be. And I think a lot of that had to do with them hitting so many threes early. It got him out of the routine where he says, well, I don't really need to be aggressive because Bogdan is raining threes. Joe Ingles is raining threes. So I don't really need to assert myself in this and mess them up out of their rhythm. You see, he needs to be the leading scorer. He needed the 32 that Bogdan had, and Bogdan needed the 21 that he had. So you're stuck, because if you look at Paul George and what he did for the Clippers, he had 37, but he got contribution from Marcus Morris with 25. He got a major contribution from Reggie Jackson with 22. That's the way it needs to go, Skip. The likelihood of a role player leading your team in a game like this it doesn't happen very often. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think. This is why you have superstars, Skip, is because you expect them to be stars, superstars, in moments like this. This is a great opportunity for Donovan Mitchell to show that, yeah, I am what I believe to be. There's a reason why Utah gave me a max contract. There's a reason why I made the All-Star team. I believe I should have been an All-NBA player. I'm going to show you. I believe he's ultra aggressive tonight. I believe they escape with a thin margin of victory. I'm going to say something like 100 to 102 to 96. And I believe they get a win, force a Game 7. But they cannot force a Game 7 unless Donovan Mitchell go for somewhere in the mid-30s to even 40s, because Paul George is going to be Paul George. Now, I don't believe he has the night that he had the other night, but these role players seem to play better at home. And if that's true, Marcus Morris could be in line to have another game, maybe not 25. Reggie Jackson has been lights out. What you call him, Mr. June. He's been spectacular in the last 5 or 6 ball games, going all the way back to the Dallas series. So I'm going to take Utah because I'm going to put a little bit more trust in Donovan Mitchell to be aggressive and to lead this team.
Okay. I'm going to preface my comments by saying this has all become very bittersweet for me. Happy, sad. Because it's very sad to me that Kawhi Leonard is gone. Mm-hmm. He had the #1 PER in the postseason, player efficiency rating.
Yeah.
He was making a case that he was the MVP of the postseason, and it's neck and neck between him and Kevin, obviously.
Correct. Yep.
I thought this team was emerging as a championship team. You know, and I know, I picked them before the year started. They rode the roller coaster through the regular season. They rode it through the Dallas series. But they seem to be finding themselves, finding their way into championship mode, to where I was really starting to trust them as an overall basketball team coached by one of the best in the business, if not the best now, in Ty Lue. And it felt like the first time ever the Clippers were going to break through all that ugly stepchildren image that they were stuck with all those years and burst out of the basement at Staples and win a championship. And now I would be shocked if they could win the championship without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So it feels like the only goal left is to try to close this deal tonight in Game 6 and at least say we beat the Jazz, who had the best record in basketball. and then let the chips fall against the Suns and whatever would happen thereafter. But this would be your ceiling, is to knock off the Jazz without Kawhi Leonard. And I believe they have to do it tonight at home, because I would definitely not love their chances of going back to Utah and try to rinse and repeat what they did 2 nights ago in Utah in Game 5. I just don't love it, because, Shannon, in the second half of that game, the Jazz shot 3 of 24 from 3. 3 of 24. Think about that. They missed 21 threes in the second half at home in that insane asylum they play in, after they had hit 10 threes in the first quarter. They had hit 15 threes through the first quarter and a half. 3 of 24 in the second half. That left the door wide enough open that Playoff P and Mr. June and Marcus Morris Sr. could run through it. Right. And speaking of those 3, they're going to have to do it again tonight at home. I do think the pressure in this series has swung back to the home team. Obviously, the Jazz, if they go up and smoke tonight, it would be a bust of a season. I don't know. Could Quinn Snyder be on a hot seat? Maybe. I don't know. But this would be an epic collapse for them if they lose to a team without Kawhi Leonard. But I still say a slight majority of the pressure tonight is on the Clippers at home, because they know they have a chance to do something virtually impossible to knock off the Jazz without Kawhi.
Skip, I believe all the pressure's on the Clippers, because here's the thing. All we have to do is win one game and the series is over. So now if the pressure's incumbent on us, we're at home.
I agree.
They should win this ball game. What do you think they're going to be thinking? I understand. We did win Game 5 in there, but do you like your chances? Do you, as you said, do you believe that Utah Jazz will shoot 3 of 24 again in the second half and leave the door open so you can walk in it again? I do not believe they'll do that, Skip.
Although Fox Bet says tonight the Clippers are actually a 1.5 underdog at home. That's correct to me. I got no quarrel with that.
Okay.
So let's see what just happened in the last 3 games. Obviously, there's a Kawhi factor here, but the Clippers won Game 3 by 26. They won Game 4 by 14. They won the other night without Kawhi at Utah by 8. So they have averaged winning 3 straight games by 16 points over the #1 record team in the NBA. That's pretty great.
Yes.
So they do have Kawhi-less momentum. They do have to feel pretty good about themselves at home tonight, which brings me to Playoff P. He's going to have to be the star tonight, not just the co-star. I believe he's emerging as a 50-50 star with Kawhi. Instead of being the 1A, tonight he obviously has to be the 1. So in this series so far, the guy called Pandemic P, the guy who was ridiculed even by me at certain points in his career, as George Paul.
Yeah.
Against the Jazz so far, through 5 games, he's averaged 29, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. If he could have a KD-esque game tonight, as KD had in Game 5.
He had it in Game 5.
Okay, but I'm saying if he could go way up, if he could go 40, 15, and 10, if he could have a big triple-double tonight, I think he would start making the case that he's been the MVP of the entire playoffs. But it would require a big game on a big stage in a big moment for this franchise tonight. And obviously, he can't do it alone, which brings me to Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson has been Mr. June. The other night at Utah, he did make the 4 biggest shots of the game, because they were all momentum breakers. Just when you thought Utah's about to seize control, Reggie said no, 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 and no. And if we could just quickly remind everybody, could we see those 4 shots he made in order? Here they go. The lead's been cut to 3, and I don't know how he made that one at the end of the clock. And all of a sudden, they're back up to 6. And here he goes again. It's now a 4-point lead. And, whoa, it's back to 7. And now it's cut down to 3 again. Here come the Jazz. And from the deep corner over there, he makes another 3. And then here they come again. And this is a 5-point game. And he's got Gobert on skates and goes up and under. And it should have been an and 1. Well, those are all killer, dagger kind of shots by Reggie Jackson.
Exactly.
So Shannon, I'm going to remind everybody, I always hark back to this game because he's got this in him. It's not like this is new to him. It's not like this is completely foreign to him, because I always remember that 2014 game when he played alongside KD and Russ in Oklahoma City. He was their sixth man. And they got in trouble against Memphis. And remember, that Memphis team was Gasol and Conley and Zach Randolph, and there was Tayshaun Prince, and Tony Allen was on that team, and Courtney Lee. That was a good basketball team. They were down, the Thunder were 2-1 at Memphis. And in that game, on that night, Kevin Durant shot 5 of 21 and 1 of 7 from 3, while Russ shot 6 of 24 and 1 of 6 from 3. And guess who saved the season? Reggie Jackson. He went for 32 off the bench, 11 of 16 from the floor, and made all 8 of his free throws and scored 9 in the fourth and 8 in overtime, and they survived 92-89 in overtime. That's what he's capable of. He's got it in his DNA. So I don't think this was an aberration. I think you just need to trust him that he just might be the closer. He at least might be the momentum breaker in the fourth quarter. So he's got to do that again tonight, and he is capable. And then I've said all year, it feels like they go as Marcus Morris Sr. goes. Well, he burst out of his slump the last 2 nights, so he's got to do it again. I don't want to heap too much pressure on him, but he's got to come up big and make 4 or 5 huge threes. And then in the end, it seems like it's all about Donovan Mitchell, because I don't think they can stop him, but can he stop himself? Because in the 5 games they played so far, in 5 fourth quarters, he's 3 of 12 from 3. Well, that's not Donovan Mitchell. So if he has some explosive fourth quarter, obviously, they could be in trouble. I think it'll come down to the wire, but I just have a feeling the Clippers have enough momentum, and that pandemic P has turned into just sheer playoff P. I feel like he and Reggie can get them home tonight, and they can win a close game by kind of the score you're talking about, 105-102. So I'm going to hang in with the Clippers. I'll be the first to tell you it's more heart than head. My head tells me they're going to be in some trouble, but my heart says they got this far, and maybe I'm rooting for tie. It's just that they've had a magic carpet ride up to this point through the playoffs, and I hope they at least finish this part off tonight.
Skip, when you look at it, if you look at the amount of games that Kawhi load managed, it's not unfamiliar with them playing without him.
Yeah, that's true.
If you look at the Nets, Skip, for the most part, they've always had at least 2 of the 3. Yeah. And the guy that performed the best without the other 2 was James Harden. Why? Because he was in that situation in Houston, so he's used to being the only star and being able to do what he did.
Yeah.
So now, basically, KD, and we haven't seen KD do what he did on that historic Game 5, because he was a guy that's really never played by himself in over a decade. Kyrie has really never played by himself. So James Harden, when he was without both of those guys, you're like, James Harden looked like the James Harden in Houston, just more efficient.
Yeah.
The Clippers, Skip, with Kawhi sitting out, Paul George leading, these guys, and Ty Lue giving them the confidence. Okay, Reggie, go be Reggie Jackson in Detroit. Yep. We need you to go get buckets. Hey, we gave you $16 million a year, Marcus Morris Sr. Do what you need to do. So Skip is not unfamiliar with them. Not playing without Kawhi. He just gives them the luxury of knowing we got a guy more times than not that when we take the court, we got the best player of both teams that's on this floor tonight.
Okay.
And he gives them a comfort level.
Allow me to make one final point.
Okay.
The X factor for me has become one young Terrence Mann from Florida State, second year. He is a game changer for this team. And I believe you saw the recent movie that came out, the Jason Statham movie called Wrath of Man by Guy Ritchie.
I did it. I saw it.
It was a little dark and a little bizarre, but I did like it. But every time Terrence Mann goes off and makes some big play like that monster dunk on Gobert, I always think of that movie title, Wrath of Man. It's like he's Wrath of Man. He's everywhere, just spewing wrath all over everybody. So I hope he can be the X factor tonight at home. that he has been for the last couple of months.
All right, guys. Well, I mentioned 2 big elimination games tonight, so we got to talk about the other one. The 76ers look to stave off elimination against the Hawks in Game 6 tonight in Atlanta. So maybe Shannon might be going. Joel Embiid and the Sixers have blown large leads in 2 straight games against Trae Young and the Hawks, who now find themselves in position to close out top-seeded Philly at home and are 1 win away from the Eastern Conference Finals. So Shannon, who you got? Who wins tonight?
Well, I'm like Skip. I'm taking the Hawks, but I don't know if my head really believes it, because the thing is they need to approach this game like this is a Game 7. I know they've gone there, they've beaten them in games 1 and 5, so they feel like, hey, we've done it before, we could do it again. But I don't know if you should have that. That might be misplaced valor. Go ahead and close this series out. You got what you want. You tracked them down in game 4 from 18. You tracked them down in game 5 from 26. Finish this thing off. Skip, I don't know if you noticed this, but this is what I'm noticing about Joel Embiid. Fatigue is playing a role in Joel Embiid's second half. In the second half of his last 2 games, he's 3 for 21 from the floor in the second half. He's 1 of 10 from the floor in the fourth quarter. Skip, now what happens when you're not healthy? You don't get to do your normal conditioning. If your normal conditioning is running on the treadmill or riding a stationary bike, you don't get an opportunity to do that when you're healthy. And even if you ride the stationary bike, how hard do you think Joel Embiid is riding that stationary bike, Skip, in his off days? So he's starting to, what we're seeing is that he's like a fighter. The deeper you go into the rounds, the more fatigued and he starts to wear down. Because if you look at him the first half, Skip, he's unstoppable. And then you look at him the second half, and it looks like Trae Young can guard him in the post. Because something is going on with Joel Embiid and fatigue setting in midway through the third quarter and beyond. Because he looks like a shell of himself in the second half of these ball games. With that being said, it's going to come down to Ben Simmons, Skip. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, they've been stealing the Sixers' money. They stealing the money right now. Tobias Harris, you can't make that kind of money and give him 4 points. Ben Simmons, you can't take 4 shots in a ball game and expect and have an impact on it, Skip.
Nope.
He can't. So, yeah, while we're getting on Joel Embiid for coming apart, coming unglued in the second half, he's like, I should have done enough in the first half that Tobias and Ben can take it from here. And for whatever reason, Skip, they've been awful in this series, with the exception of maybe a game here or there or a quarter here or there. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris haven't played well. But this game is going to come down to the Hawks, and can they handle the moment? Knowing what's at hand right now, Skip, we got an opportunity to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. And who knows, Skip, what can happen. Anything can happen. Now, we didn't think this would be a series. A lot of people say, oh, I always felt it was going to be a long series. This was going to be 6 or 7 game series because Atlanta was better than people thought. I'm going to take the Hawks. Trae Young has been phenomenal. He's averaging 29-11 in this series. They can't keep him out the lane because he's either going to float it or Capella or John Collins is going to dunk it on the back end of it. So I'm going to take the Hawks in a very close ball game. I believe they close the Sixers out tonight.
By the way, it seems to me that I actually made the Joel Embiid running out of gas point to you yesterday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think I used the stat that he was 3 of 21 in the combined second halves. So I think you just plagiarized me, but that's okay.
I did. I plagiarized you?
Yeah, you plagiarized me. Okay, next. And I do agree with that point because I obviously made that point, and I do think that will play a huge role tonight. I won't be at all surprised because, remember, the Sixers are still 3.5-point favorites at Atlanta tonight.
Right.
I will not be at all surprised if Joel comes out in the first quarter and goes 8 for 8 and outscores Capella 17-0. And I won't be surprised if the Hawks lead by 12 at halftime. And then
Skip, he's dominated every first quarter.
Yeah,
he's dominated every first half.
Yeah, he has. So then we'll see what we see. Will they hit the wall? Will Ben Simmons become hack-a-bin liability in the third and fourth quarters? We'll see. For me, I'm sticking with the Sixers to win tonight and to win Game 7 because I'm sticking with what happened in Game 3 at Atlanta. Do you remember that one? That was
Yes.
the blueprint for Philadelphia's success story. That was a game that the Sixers dominated 127 to 111. It was at Atlanta, at State Farm. In that game, that night, Embiid went 27, 9, and 8. That'll work. Tobias Harris that night gave you 22, 8, and 5. That will really work because he earned his $33 million that he made this year that night. Ben gave you 18, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists, okay? It's not great, but it's enough. You can win with that, right? And Korkmaz gave you 14, and Seth gave you 12, and Dwight came off the bench and gave you 12 and 6. Work, work, work. That all adds up to the blueprint of 127, 111, Philadelphia over Atlanta at Atlanta. Well, that's it. That's your formula for success. That night, Atlanta was 6 of 23 from 3.
Right.
Well, they're capable of doing that. They're capable of feeling too much pressure tonight because you could argue, just as we did with the Clippers, they better do it now at home. You could argue that there'll be more pressure tonight on the Hawks at home.
Right, right.
Okay, so that's what I think is going to happen, but Joel can't hit the second half wall. He's going to have to continue to dominate in the third quarter and especially the fourth because I think it'll be a barn burner of a shootout. I think it'll still go down to the wire, and I think somebody's going to have to rise up and take over the game. Mostly it's got to be Joel Embiid. I still say he is unstoppable when he decides to post up and impose his will on anybody in the paint. You can't drift. You can't go like you talked about Giannis. You can't start jacking up threes and fall away twos.
You're bailing them out.
No, you're bailing them out. So in the end, our guy Doc Rivers, has to push a button tonight, and it better be the right button because something needs to be tweaked. You don't have to start over. You don't have to tear it up and try to rebuild it overnight, but there has to be a coaching tweak that makes the Sixers feel better about their strategy and about themselves because I pointed out yesterday, there's an alarming trend here concerning Doc Rivers. I love him. You love him. We all love him. He's had obviously a great career, but even our man Chris Broussard points out in his career, he's blown a lot of big leads in the playoffs. And it started last year when he was the Clippers coach. And in the 3 closeout games against Denver, they're up 3-1. And his team blew a 16-point lead, 19-point lead in game 6, and a 12-point lead in game 7. And then here we turn around and we get to game 4 against the Hawks, and they blow an 18-point lead, and then the other night, impossibly, they blew a 26-point lead. Well, that's just wrong, and Doc's on a little bit of a hot seat here because they need to reverse that trend. They need to take a lead and keep a lead and keep, as the old saying goes, foot on throat tonight because the Hawks are dangerous, obviously, especially at home, and I give you that Ice Trae has been very difficult to deal with, especially in fourth quarters, because he can not only get to the end of the lane at will, he can get to the free throw line, and he can make his late game free throws.
Skip, think about what you just said.
Yeah.
Skip, think about this. In the Doc Rivers' last 12 games he's coached, his team has blown lead of 12, 16, 19, 18, and 26. So 5 of the 12 games in which he's coached, they've had double-digit leads, substantial double-digit leads. And he's lost them.
And I know for a fact that inside the Clippers hierarchy, they felt like Doc just got sick and tired of the Clippers last year and basically just folded his arms and watched. And basically when, as you said yesterday, Phil Jackson has said, you guys figure it out.
Right.
Well, they don't have Michael and Scotty. They don't have Shaq and Kobe. They had Kawhi and Paul George, and they couldn't figure it out.
Right.
So now they got Joel, who's hitting the physical wall in the second half just because he's not in that great a shape. So something has to change. How do you coach around Ben Simmons? Do you yank him? Do you go with Shake Milton?
Yes.
Do you just try to figure out how to maneuver around Ben Simmons? Maybe so. Maybe this is the night you do that.
Skip, Skip, why would you not take him out if they foul him and then he misses the free throws? What good is he on you on the offensive end? You might as well not have him out there. It's not like he's contributing.
No.
You keep saying, well, he's doing a great job on Trey. Did they not see Trey get 39 and 7? Did they not see Trey get 25 and 18? So how much is he stopping Trey? Now, Skip, if you go back and look at it, Atlanta has only shot the three ball great in game 1. They do to shoot the three ball good at some point in time.
Yep.
Now, they can't keep shooting 7 of 28 and 6 of 30. At some point in time, they're going to shoot the three ball like they shot it in game 1.
Yep.
If they shoot the three ball like they shot the three ball in game 1 and game 6, the Sixers are going home tonight.
Yeah, I will give you this. Bogdanovich and Gallinari, they shoot threes like they mean it. You know,
yes.
when they shoot it with conviction. Like when it leaves their hand, it looks like they believe they're going to make the shot.
Yep.
I fear them when I'm rooting and betting against them, and I will fear them tonight.
And think about this, Skip. Herter played all those minutes. He played like 25, 30 minutes and gave him 0 points in game 5. You would like to think he's going to contribute and give you at least 10.
Yeah.
But if they make the three, I'm not saying they're going to have that great a shooting like they did in game 1, but they just can't have the shooting stretch from 3 like they've had throughout the series. They've won 3 games with the exception and only shot the three ball great in 1 of those. Y'all in trouble, Skip.
Well, we may be, but I need you to actually go to the game and jinx your Hawks. That's what I need, because you haven't been to a game, so you need to go to a game, and your mere presence will doom them.
Nah, they need me to watch this thing from home. They need me to watch it from the crib.
Okay.
Fine. All right. I would have enjoyed seeing you there celebrating, cheering. Shannon on the loose.
No mercy.
Rick Carlisle is stepping down after 13 years as head coach of the Mavericks and with 2 years left on his contract. After the Mavs were bounced by the Clippers in the first round, Mark Cuban said his team did not plan to make a coaching change, but Carlisle's exit comes one day after general manager Donnie Nelson mutually parted ways with the team as well. Despite all this, Luka Doncic reportedly still plans to sign a 5-year Supermax contract with Dallas. So Shannon, scale of 1 to 10, how good of a job is this in Dallas?
Skip, this is a rarity. I can't recall a head coach stepping down with a superstar talent on his roster.
Okay.
Skip, you dream of getting these jobs. A lot of times coaches get these jobs and you in a desert, you're in a wasteland. You don't have these guys. He has a 22-year-old superstar. The guy is a 2-time first-team All-NBA player, and he's 22 years of age. And he says, you know what? Now, Skip, I read what a lot of other people read, that there's a former gambler who turned analytics guy who has the ear of the owner, Mark Cuban, who's alienated a lot of people in the building, kind of like what Howie Roseman did with Jeffrey Lurie. Howie Roseman is the general manager. He got in the ear of Jeffrey Lurie, alienated a lot of people in the building. And we also heard there was a couple of little rumblings between Luka and Coach Carlisle. I remember the game in which Coach Carlisle was out. I don't know the reason, but they were playing the Knicks. And Jamal Mosley, who was his assistant coach, they won. And they asked Luka, and Luka said, for sure, he has what it takes to be a head coach. On the way out, Rick Carlisle thanked a lot of people. He ain't mentioned Luka. Unless I read it wrong, Skip. Maybe I didn't read all of it in its entirety. Maybe they just gave me, offered me a summation of what he actually said. There's a lot of things that's going on here. Coaches don't normally walk away with 2 years left on their contract if they're coaching a superstar. So, but to answer Jenny's question, Skip, this is an 8. Now, I would like it to be a 9 or 10 if they didn't have Porzingis on the roster. If they didn't have Porzingis on the roster, I said it would have been a 9. But they got him on the roster, and good luck trying to unload that contract. Because who wants a 7'3" guy making $30+ million a year, Skip, and all he wants to do is shoot threes? And he's hurt 25, 30 games every single year. So for me, this is an 8 job. It is a rarity that an opportunity like this where the coach steps down. Now, we've seen situations where coaches get fired, but for a coach with 2 years left, Skip, that says, nah, I'm good. And he says, I look forward to other coaching opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So, Skip, it's like, I ain't tired of coaching. I'm just tired of coaching here. I'm up out of here. And Skip, before I turn it over to you, and what did he say, Skip? This was my decision. You know, a lot of times, Skip, they agree to mutually part ways. That's a parsing of the word, Skip. Somebody got fired. He's like, no, I ain't get fired. I walked away, and I look forward to my other coaching opportunities. There's a lot of, Mark Cuban's he's a good PR guy, Skip. He can spin a lot of things. He ain't spinning this one. He can't spin this one. There ain't no smoke. They fire here.
Okay, back to Jenny's question. I cannot tell you how much I disagree with every point you just made. This job for me would be a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 because it could be and probably would be nightmarish from day one forward. You are having to work under Mark Cuban and trying to handle Luka Doncic. Nightmare. I think it's a can't win for the coach, and I would put quotes around that term coach because I don't think you would have much say-so at all over what Luka does or definitely over what Mark Cuban does.
But no coach has say over superstar, Skip. That's always been the case.
But this is even worse. And I know Rick Carlisle, and I love Rick Carlisle. He can coach.
Yes.
He was the greatest thing that ever happened to Mark Cuban. He put Mark Cuban on the map. He won in spite of Mark Cuban. And when they broke through, they got a big assist from your man LeBron James, obviously, in 2011. But he coached that team with Dirk and Jason Kidd through those playoffs, through those big series, and through that finals in which they were down 2-1 to obviously the Miami Heat of LeBron and D. Wade. And they roared back and won it in 6. And he's always been a very good coach. And Cuban has always said, you better be careful about firing a coach unless you have a better alternative on the horizon somewhere because the grass is not always greener. Well, I don't believe he fired Rick Carlisle. And I do believe that Rick finally said, I just can't take this anymore. And to your point, I don't know the inner workings of that franchise. I used to cover the Mavericks back in the day, but he did hire a former professional gambler to be his quantitative research director, whatever that means. And more, that guy is having say. And finally, it took, they had to remove Donnie Nelson from it. And Donnie's been there for 24 years.
Correct.
As the GM of the team. Mark Cuban's really the GM. But I found it very telling that right after the Game 7 loss to the Clippers, Rick Carlisle was asked, do you feel like your job's in jeopardy? And he said, well, that's not my say. Why don't you text Mark and ask him? Because it was a little between the line shot because all those beat writers, all those media types, they're able to text Mark Cuban and go back and forth with him because he is a media maven. He is in the spotlight. There are many days, to me, that Mark Cuban makes Jerry Jones look like a hands-off wallflower. Seriously. Mark Cuban is front and centerpiece. He sits in the front row at the games. He travels to all the away games. He owns and operates the Dallas Mavericks. So right away, you're up against it as a coach, which brings me to Luka. I think he's overrated. You love him because you've latched onto him as baby bird. I call him baby sparrow. I just don't love what I see. I don't think he's good enough to be the diva that he can be. I don't think he's valuable enough to act the way he acts. And remember, Cuban called him out day one this year. He said, well, he came in a little overweight and out of shape. And he did. He was the MVP favorite before the year started, and he came in fat and out of shape. That was the truth. So,
but Skip,
go ahead.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. You know how this works with superstars. And today's superstars, you have to cater even more. Now, we're hearing the story coming out of New Orleans. What are we hearing coming out of New Orleans, Skip? What's going on with their superstar? So what we're seeing is that superstars were always catered to, and you always made concessions, and normally you ran things by them. Okay, when you hire a coach, okay, what you thinking, Magic? What you thinking, Larry? You hired GM, you ran that by them. Now these young guys, Skip, who's always been catered to, because the older guys weren't catered to like that. They had hard. They got coached tough. They got coached hard. Well, Skip, you can't coach a kid hard now, because guess what? He'll pick up and he'll go play on somebody else's AAU team. And you don't want that to happen. If I got an opportunity, I'm coaching Jason Tatum or Brandon Ingram or LeBron James.
Okay.
I'm going to get whatever they want. So you better cater to them, Skip, or else.
All right. Just for the record, your man Luka is a career 33% three-point shooter. This year, he improved slightly to 35%. That ranked 123rd in the NBA of 155 qualified three-point shooters. Free throws. Luka is, let's just do last year, he shot 73%. That ranked 87th of 110 qualified. So he's like LeBron, he's not much of a shooter. He was second this year, was Luka, in turnovers to Russell Westbrook. Yet he led the league in usage rate at 43.4%, which was a wide margin over Trae Young. So he's going to have the ball in his hands way more than anybody does, which leads me to your guy Porzingis, your lightning rod to the playoffs, your target. And Porzingis averaged 20 and 9 in the regular season because he got 16 shots a game. Well, in the postseason, his shots fell all the way down to just 10 shots because he mostly had to go stand in the corner and watch Luka dribble. And so his playoff averages fell to 13 and 5. So from 20 and 9 in the regular season to 13 and 5 because Luka, just living up to your hype, just dribbled the air out of the basketball and shot it. And by the way, in those fourth quarters of those 7 playoff games against the Clippers, he shot 5 of 18 from 3. It's just not good enough. He shot 5 of 10 from the free throw line. Not good enough. And you're telling me he deserves to be the diva of the franchise? I'm just not so sure about that.
You know what, Skip Bayless? You like numbers. There's 30 NBA teams. There's 15 players per team. That's 450 players in the NBA. Only 5 of them made first team All-NBA. Luka Doncic was one of them. Now, you can give me that 73% all you want. You can give me that 35% all you want. But Luka Doncic, of the 450 players in the NBA, he's one of 5 that made first team All-NBA. So let me ask you another question. You said that Porzingis, his shots, his point total went down. So did Luka PER go up in the playoffs, or was it the exact same? Because it looked to me, Luka averages went up across the board. Points, rebounds, and assists. And Porzingis, because of the moment, everything he did went down.
Well, so because one guy had the ball and the other guy no longer had the ball.
Skip, Luka always had the ball. Luka's always had the ball. Nothing's changed. And you understand that when you play with other great players, Skip, you play around them, you play off of them, especially when he's the guard and he handles the ball. Luka Doncic is legit. And somebody's going to be very, very fortunate to get an opportunity to manage. I don't know how much you're going to get an opportunity to coach, Skip. It's going to be more like a manage, more like you're in co-partnership.
Okay, there you go. All I know about Luka is in that fateful turnaround Game 3 at Dallas that Friday night against the Clippers when they went up 30-11 and blew it up 2-0 in the series. All of a sudden, I look over in the fourth quarter, and Luka's on the bench with a big ice pack or heat, I don't know what it was, on his shoulder. And I'm like, where'd that come from? Message sent. Prop. He's got to go to the bench and say, I'm hurt. That's why we're losing. That's what the coach is going to have to deal with. And again, somebody will take this job, but I wouldn't want it because I don't think you'll last very long. And Rick Carlisle will come back to haunt Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic because there are a bunch of job openings. Speaking of the Pelicans, I think he'd be a great fit. Obviously, he played for the Celtics, so he would be a great fit there. I know they just got rid of Kemba Walker. I think that would be a good thing. And Portland's still sitting there, so he's got options, and he knew he had options, which is why he said, I've had enough.
But let me ask you a question. Will you last longer coaching a superstar or not? Because all I know is guys that don't get an opportunity to coach superstars, they normally coach 1 to 2 years. Guys that coach superstars, they last a long period of time. Look at Terry Stotts. How long did he last? Because he had superstars. When you get superstars, you get an opportunity because those guys give you an opportunity to win ball games. You can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you ain't coaching superstars, you ain't winning jack.
Okay, but if you coach this superstar and you flame out in the first round of the playoffs again next year, you'll probably be gone. Somebody's going to take the fall.
But let me ask you a question, Skip. Were they favored? You make it seem like Luka was the 1 seed and he got beat by the 8, or he's the 2 seed and got beat by the 7. He's never been the favorite. He lost in a 3-6 matchup. He lost in a 4-5 matchup. But don't pretend.
Okay, wait a second. I'm not the one who calls him Baby Bird, as in Larry Bird. So, yeah, he was favored because of what you put on his head. You called him the next Larry Bird. So, yeah, he's the favorite in my book.
Yeah, and Bird lost when Magic and Kareem, James Worthy went bonkers on him. He got 2 guys going bonkers, and it's me by myself because you told me I got a 7'3" unicorn. Yeah, he is a unicorn. Because you know why they call him a unicorn? Because unicorns really don't exist. And neither does Porzingis when it comes into playoff time.
Yeah, that's definitely true there. I'm curious how quickly Dallas will make a decision here.
No mercy.
Well, the Bucks beat the Nets last night to force a Game 7 after Chris Middleton and Giannis combined for 68 points. And Milwaukee's starting lineup scored 100 of 104 points. Kevin Durant, coming off his epic performance at Game 5, led the Nets with 32 points and 11 rebounds. Game 7 will be Saturday in Brooklyn. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard joins us now. Chris, what a game last night, and who doesn't love a Game 7? So who you got? Who wins it?
Jen, I feel very confident that the Brooklyn Nets will win this game. I am not the least bit deterred by what happened last night. I thought the Brooklyn Nets lost because they didn't play with any sense of urgency. Credit to the Bucks. They went inside finally, and they played fairly well. But Brooklyn played horrible basketball. And I think they played like a team that knew they had Game 7 at home in their back pocket. I'm not saying they went out purposely and did that, but in their subconscious, they just didn't have that do-or-die mentality that they're going to have in Game 7. So I think Brooklyn wins it. Obviously, they've got the best player in the series, the best player on the court, and that's Kevin Durant. I think he will go for 40-plus. I'm not saying he does what he did in Game 5, but he will have a huge game and go for 40-plus points. And James Harden, who I think when he came back in Game 5 was, I think it was about 15% of what he really is. 15 to 20%. I think last night he was about 45% of who he is. And then I think in Game 7 he'll be able to be, 60 to 65% of who he is. He clearly can't let it go. There were opportunities for him to fast break, and he just slows it down. He clearly doesn't want to just go all out on that hamstring, but he is a smart player. He's a very skilled player, so I think he'll be able to play a strong game. His best game yet since he's come back, 20-plus points, 8-9 assists, something like that. And I think one or two of the role players, whether it's Blake Griffin, Landry Shamet, Jeff Green, maybe Joe Harris, who's fallen off the face of the earth these last 4 games, but somebody will step up to support the 2 stars, and the Nets will get the win. On the other hand, Giannis is going to do what he does. He's going to give you 30-plus points. He's going to give you 15 or more rebounds, and he's going to miss free throws and jump shots. Chris Middleton was awesome last night. I said this fully as a compliment to him. I don't know how people take it. But he looked like a poor man's Kevin Durant last night. And I mean that in a good way. He was great, but he has been a different player on the road. He's 30 points, 53% shooting at home in this series. He's 18 points, 32% shooting in Barclays Center. So I think he comes back to earth and the Nets prevail.
Chris, even if KD goes for 40, that's still not enough to win the game unless one of these role players. Because even if we're looking at that historic moment, it took Jeff Green going 7 of 8 from 3. It took Blake Griffin chipping in with 19 points. If you look at it last night, yeah, he had to work harder. He took 7 more shots and had 17 fewer points, but he still was 32 and 11, but he got no one to come along with him for the ride, and they got blown out. But here's the other thing, Chris. It's not like they're going to grow any taller. They still got no rim protectors. Milwaukee could win the game, could blow the Nets out by not shooting a jump shot. They can get whatever they want in the paint, Chris. You see Holiday goes to the rim at will, and he'll shoot a step back on off-balance 3 just because he can. You see, I'm looking at Giannis. Giannis come down, lay it up. Come down, bang, lay it up. And then all of a sudden, he's shooting step-back jumpers. I'm like, Giannis, did you forget that you just scored 6 points by laying the ball up and dunking it? Why would you even think about attempting it? But I will say this. He didn't even attempt the three last night, Chris. 11 of his 15 shots came at the, and he drew 8 fouls. That's the recipe. They got nobody to protect the rim. James Harden can't stay in front of Holiday. Joe Harris can't stay in front of Holiday. Who do they got to try to guard Chris Middleton? Nobody. They can get in the paint, get whatever shot they want. They don't have to settle for the three. Well, they did. They weren't like the 5th best three-point shooting team. I get all of that. But why do I need to throw the go ball even though I'm good at it if I can just turn around and hand it up to the running back and he get me 9 yards a clip? Bucks, all you got to do is just go inside. Just drive the ball and get the ball, dunk it, lay it up, do whatever you want. That's all you got to do and make KD work. But the question is, Chris, what type of legs is KD going to have? He played heavy minutes Tuesday night. He logged another 40-plus minutes last night. How much can he load? Hey, and plus, he was minus 25 on the court. He had the highest plus-minus, the lowest plus-minus of anybody on the court.
Okay, I think it's my turn. Back to my friend Chris Broussard. You just knocked me out of my chair with what you termed James Harden's percentages, that he was 15% in game one, and he went all the way up, or in the first game he played, and went all the way to...
That's not sourced.
Okay, your source told you he was 45% last night.
That's not sourced. No, that's not sourced. That's not sourced. I'm just looking at it myself.
No, I'm kidding.
That's what I see.
I'm kidding. Yes, I got you. My eyes, my 2 eyes, and my TV, maybe I got to get a new TV. I'm still looking at a black and white TV. I can't compete with Shannon up there in his palatial estate up in Bel Air. But my eye test last night told me he might have been 15% in the previous game 48 hours earlier. Last night, he was 10%. He went backward. He lost mobility. He lost confidence in his hamstring. He was even more of a liability as a playmaking, creating ball handler than he was 2 nights before, and just as big a liability on defense. I've never seen anything like it, where a man played 46 minutes on an improving, healing hamstring and lost confidence in it, and played 40 more minutes last night and couldn't move. And if we could just see that first play that happened with 4:26 left in the first quarter, when he took the ball out of Giannis's hands and had a breakaway solo swoop to the hoop. Here he goes, and he's off to the right. No, he's not. He said, no, I can't do that. And he turned around and dribbled backward and let everybody pass him so that he could go down and walk it in and set up the play. Chris, it got so bad last night that Kevin Durant was bringing the ball up and had by far his highest usage rate in all of his playoff history. 45% of the time the ball was in Kevin's hands. He was creating and dribbling the ball up. He was doing everything to a fault, because once they hit mid-fourth quarter, when they cut it all the way down to 5, he hit the wall. He was not there for him when they needed to continue to make their run. And then they cut it to 5 and give up a 14-0 run to the home team, and that was ball game. But my point is, James had the ball in his hands last night 18%. It's by far his lowest usage rate in a playoff game since Oklahoma City, when he was obviously just the 6th man. So to me, I made a big bet yesterday with Shannon. I thought they could win last night, the Nets at Milwaukee, but I had a backup plan, which is Game 7 back home. I had that in my back pocket, and now I don't love it because I'm afraid James Harden is going to be the shell of himself he was again last night. I know he made 3 threes, but Chris, it looked like he was having to like heave them, like shot put them to get them to the rim, because he doesn't trust his hamstring to even push off on step backs, feet on the floor set shots. So I don't love it, man, because I'm afraid KD's going to have to go all-time KD again for them to survive.
Well, you showed the highlight, and he knew. I don't know who the buck was at the top of the screen.
I think it was Middleton.
I think it was. He wasn't going to get away from them. He could not have beaten them to the basket on that bad hamstring. Not to mention, I think he feared, yes, Drew Holiday and Middleton, that, he could pop it if he goes all out. So I understand it. And obviously he doesn't have that burst. But what I liked was the shot that you mentioned, the 3 threes. He went from 5 points to 16 points. He still gave them 7 assists. For your average player, if he gives you 16, 7, and 5, we're like, hey, we'll take that. So I think him shooting it better showed me he had a little more strength in his legs. He was feeling a little bit better. And that's what I'm looking at. And I think, Shannon, because I've heard a lot of this, that the Nets are spent, that, they've gone too many minutes. KD played the full game 5. They're done. They're tired. KD has played 46 games this year, including the playoffs. How can he be tired? He played 35 regular season games. It's the second round. If the Nets are spent in the second round of the playoffs, then shame on them. They don't deserve to go any further. Even if you play 40 games. I'm looking at the other side. Chris Middleton's played 40-plus minutes the last 4 games. That's more than 40-plus games than he's had like the last 2 or 3 series before this one. Giannis has played 3 games of 40-plus minutes in this series. That's more than he's played the last 2 or 3 years. We know Budenholzer has always cut their minutes short, even in the playoffs. So I think they should be just as spent as the Nets.
But here's the thing, Chris. This is what I'm looking at. Kevin Durant in game 5, he had 19 free throw attempts. Last night he had 2. He was 0 That's the telltale, because what was he doing? When they got behind, he says, I'm just not going to settle. I'm going to put it on the floor and I'm going to go to the rim. Even though those 48 minutes are not 48 minutes where he's handling the ball, because a lot of the defensive assignment, he's on Tuck. Tuck's just standing in one corner or the other corner. That's all he's doing. But he expended a lot of energy to get them back into the ball game, and then even more energy to get them over the hump. He looked like it's hard. Look, I get it. But even the games that he played, Nash was playing them heavy minutes. Remember, they was going overtime, double overtimes, and KD was playing 48, playing 42 minutes, 43 minutes. You're asking an awful lot. He's going to need some help, because I don't care if he goes for 40. If Jeff Green doesn't come along with that historic performance, we're not talking about that performance, because they lose that game. Jeff gave him 7 of 8 from 3. Blake gave him 19. That was the difference, the timely 3. Last night, KD was still 50%. Gave you 32 and 11, Chris. Anybody give you 32 and 11, you like, I'll take that all day. Somebody go give me 32 and 11 on a regular basis, whoo, man, I'm good. But that's not good enough, considering James Harden is hampered and Kyrie's not there.
So, Shannon, here's why you are going to be in trouble. This is what I co-signed with Chris Broussard. You're going to need Chris Middleton to be what he was last night. And I don't know why, but he plays pathetically away from home. And to echo what Chris said earlier, in the 3 home games at Milwaukee, he's 31, 10, and 5. In the 3 at Brooklyn, he's 18 and 7 and 3, and he's shooting 26% from 3. He's 6 of 23. So it's night and day for him. And people say, oh, he's the most underrated all-star in the league, and why doesn't he get more shine? Well, that's why he doesn't get more shine. He's going to have to come up huge in this game, because it's going to take 2 of them to withstand the onslaught at Brooklyn. So I'm going to hang in there, even with no James Harden, and say that without Chris Middleton and Giannis, and we know Giannis can disappear right on schedule in a game like this, I'm going to co-sign with Chris and say I'm clinging to the Nets.
Well, I disagree with both of you guys. This is going to be one of these Alaska summers. 24 hours of sunlight, baby. Chris Middleton bringing it home.
24 hours of sun.
No mercy.
Despite being without Kawhi, the Clippers took a 3-2 series lead over the Jazz on Wednesday behind Paul George's 37 points and have a chance to close out the series tonight at home. Kawhi remains out for Game 6 with a sprained right knee, and for the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley are both questionable. The Clippers are just one game away from reaching the franchise's first conference finals, where the Suns await the winner of this series. They are waiting very patiently right now. Chris Broussard still with us. So, Chris, who you got? Who wins tonight?
Well, you mentioned Donovan Mitchell being questionable. Mm-hmm. I think he'll clearly play. The question is, how well does he play? I'm going to bank on him playing well. I'm going to bank on that ankle being a little bit better than it was in Game 5, and I think he will lead them to victory. I predicted a 7-game series. When it started, Clippers in 7, obviously without Kawhi, you can kind of throw pre-series predictions out the window, but I still think this goes 7 and Utah wins tonight. I think a whole host of Clippers come back to earth tonight, even though they're at home. And starting with Paul George. Now, I threw flowers at Paul George all day yesterday, and deservedly so. He was phenomenal. He was playoff P. All right, he was great. But I've noticed a trend. We all said, guys, on this show, he looked like the Paul George back in Indiana who was battling LeBron and the big three of Miami in the playoffs as a youngster. And you're thinking, wow, he's overmatched and he's giving the big three all they want. And then last night he was great. What's the common denominator? When he was in Indiana facing LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh, no one expected anything.
No expectations.
Right? He was playing with, house money. You know, you play him well, great, even if you lose. And in Game 5, it was the same thing. Without Kawhi, no one really thought they were going to go in there and win. And so he was playing with house money. There's no expectations. If you lose, everybody expected it. But tonight, there are expectations. Everyone is thinking he's going to bring it home and do something that Chris Paul couldn't do, that Kawhi Leonard has yet to do, that Doc Rivers and Blake Griffin couldn't do, and that is get the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in their history. Man, I don't know if playoff P wants this type of pressure and these type of expectations, because typically when that's been the case in his career, that's when he hasn't been at his best. I'm not saying he completely falls flat on his face. I'm just saying I don't think he goes for 30+. I don't think he has one of those classic games that's necessary for him to lead them to victory. I think he's in the 20s, but it's not really efficient, and it's a pedestrian game, and he just doesn't deliver. And so, I think Donovan Mitchell comes back with a big game. That 21 points in Game 5, his lowest of the playoffs this year. I think you guys may have mentioned it yesterday. He got out of rhythm. You know, when everybody else was hitting threes, he never really got going. And he didn't go to the hole. All he did was shoot threes, 14 of his 19 shots, which tells me the ankle was bothering him. I think it'll be better tonight. He goes for a big game, 30+, and Utah wins.
I agree with you, Chris. I'm taking Utah because I believe they'll play with a greater sense of urgency than what they had in Game 5. And you're right. Because they were raining threes, Bogdanovich was raining threes, and everybody was raining threes, Clarkston, Ingles, is that it got Donovan out of his rhythm. And see, what happens is once you get a guy out of his rhythm and then you can no longer make those shots, how do you get back in rhythm? It's the opposite of what KD. They let KD get a rhythm, the Bucks did, and now I don't care who you throw at him. I don't care how many guys you throw at him. You can't stop him. And so that's what happened with Utah. He got out of rhythm, and even though they everything settled back down, he couldn't get back in rhythm. So he'll be aggressive. The first 4 games, look at how aggressive he was, putting the ball on the floor. Yeah, he had the 3-ball going, but he was finishing at the rim a lot also, getting fouled, getting to the free throw line. I believe he gets back to that. He needs to be in the 30s, and Bogdanovich or Ingles also need to be in the 20s because he has to have someone to come along with him. I don't know if Mike Conley's going to play. They say he's questionable. We'll see. He might miss the entire series. He might come back and play a Game 7 if necessary. But they're going to have to play better. They can't go make 10 threes in the first quarter, 17 in the first half, 0 for 10 in the third quarter and then go 3 of 14 in the fourth quarter and expect to win a ball game. I believe they shoot the three better. I believe Donovan Mitchell plays better. And I believe Marcus Morris all of a sudden realized that he's not Larry Bird. And all of a sudden Reggie Jackson realized that he's not the microwave in Benny Johnson, who would automatically come in and give you all those points, all those he's thrust into the starting lineup. So I'm going to take the Jazz in a really, really, really close game. And I agree with you also, Chris, that Paul George comes back to earth somewhat. He might not be land on earth, but he won't be as high in the stratosphere as he was for game 5.
My turn. So Chris Broussard just used the phrase bank on. I will borrow that phrase to say tonight I am banking on playoff P. I believe in playoff P. I have told Shannon from day one of this year when he shot the Lakers right off the floor at Staples, he came right up out of the basement, shot them right between the eyes in the third quarter of that game, and opening night at Staples. I have seen a young man grow up and toughen up mentally through this year when he was ridiculed by billions of people on the internet and a lot of players on the floor of NBA games, starting with Devin Booker, which is why I want to see him get to go against Devin Booker in the conference finals. But to do that, they need to win at home tonight. This may be my heart picking against my head, and I will give you that. But I believe in playoff P tonight to close the deal because they have momentum. I realize there's no Kawhi. It's bittersweet for me because I believe this team could have and would have won the championship. Tonight, they will hit their heads on the ceiling if they win this game and get to the conference finals because I don't think they can go past Phoenix in the finals to get to the NBA finals. But I remind you that they won Game 3 by 26, Game 4 by 14, and the other night at Utah by 8. So they've averaged winning by 16 points again. I get it, there's no Kawhi, but they have huge momentum and confidence in this series. Paul George is capable of a huge night, and I'm going to go big. I'm going to go triple-double huge for him, 35, 15, and 10. And I believe it will take that for them to overcome Utah tonight because I don't think Utah will do what it did at home in the second half, which is shoot 3 of 24 from 3. Surely they won't miss 21 three-point shots in the second half at Staples tonight. But I believe Paul George will play so big that he will at least enter in the discussion of being the MVP of the playoffs so far because he's averaged 29, 10, and 4 so far against Utah. And if he has that kind of game and Reggie Jackson rides shotgun for him, because Reggie is not just some scrub. He's not just some 6th or 7th man. He's done this regularly in the playoffs. He made 4 huge dagger-type shots, breaking Utah's momentum the other night in Game 5. And I believe it's just second nature for him to make big shots alongside Paul George through the fourth quarter tonight. Marcus Morris Sr., you got to rise and shine. Sometimes this team goes as he goes, and I think he'll make 4 or 5 big threes tonight. That all adds up to Clippers in 6. That's what I picked before the series started. I know we've had like seismic interruptions with no Kawhi, but still, I'm going to stick with Clippers in 6.
I mean, and Chris, I don't know if you noticed this, but Paul George went from being a complimentary superstar to all of a sudden a superstar of superstars. He's thought of in the same breath as LeBron and Steph Curry and KD, because I see my man trumpeting him. Whoo! Man, how soon did that turn around?
Yep.
But your day coming, just like I told you with the Hawks, your day was coming with that snow, that ice storm that was headed up to Philly, and I told you your day was coming. Your day coming tonight. You're going to learn.
We are going to own Staples tonight, and dare I say, is it possible that L.A. is about to turn into Georgetown?
Okay, Georgetown.
Georgetown. Who knew?
Okay, Georgetown.
And by the way, last quick question. Whatever happened to LeBron James? I'm wondering, does anybody know where he is or what?
We getting ready for our movie. We got a big movie. We got a big movie debut.
What movie?
You know what it is.
I don't know
Stop
any
pretending.
movie. Oh, wait, you mean that rip-off of Space Jam that's about to come out? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes here.
Here's the thing, Skip. I mean, you joking about Georgetown and all that. That just adds more pressure. I mean, the whole city of LA's eyes are on PG-13.
Correct.
They're
I
expecting
agree.
him at least for the next month, right?
Yep.
We know they can't take over LA, but at least for the next month, LA can be yours. All of that is riding on PG. Why did he leave Oklahoma City? Why was he willing to join Kawhi in LA? Because he wanted Kawhi to be the man, not him.
Well,
So let's see.
No.
I'll give you major props if he does it.
No, he just thought he had a better chance to win with Kawhi than with Russell Westbrook.
Nah, he didn't want that responsibility.
But he knew he was the second banana.
Yeah, he didn't want, just like he went to Russ, the same reason he went to OKC. He knew Russ was going to get all the blame. Because even though Russ dropped 44 on Utah and they lost, they blamed Russ. Ain't mentioned Paul George had a spade hand, put 5 on it. So that's what he is. He's been skating all along. Everybody blamed Kawhi, while he was yucking it up last year, blowing that 3-1 lead.
Yep.
But you over there sitting back all high and mighty, Skip Bayless.
I am.
But your day coming.
Yep.
Your day coming.
Yep.
And I want you to have the same energy on Monday, because Monday you're going to have to deal with me.
Pandemic P is no more.
Hey, Chris, before you go, Jenny, I want to say a happy anniversary on this day, June 18th, 2013. The shot heard around the world. I want to know in the next segment if we can pull that up. The Ray Allen shot. Don't pretend like you don't know Skip Bayless. Yeah, please. I want to see it. Let me see it, Skip Bayless.
Thank you for bringing that up. It was the greatest clutch shot in history. It was. That saved LeBron's legacy. Saved his legacy. What would LeBron be now? He would be 3-7 in the finals if not for Ray Allen. Way to go, Ray. Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Yep,
Shot.
I agree.
Oh, my gosh. Shannon has just been waiting for today to roll the tape. Waiting, and yes, you got what you want.
I liked it, actually. I appreciate that.
No mercy.
The 76ers look to stave off elimination against the Hawks. Game 6 tonight in Atlanta. Joel Embiid and the Sixers have blown large leads in 2 straight games against Trae Young and the Hawks, who now find themselves in position to close out the top-seeded Philly team at home and are 1 win away from the Eastern Conference Finals at this point. So, Chris Broussard still with us. Chris, I start with you. Who wins tonight?
Jen, of the 3 predictions that we're making today, this is the one I feel the least confident in. But I know Atlanta has all the momentum. They've got the crowd. They're not in their own heads, right? They're not having psychological challenges like the Philadelphia 76ers are. Doc Rivers has a history of these types of collapses, and Ben Simmons is just a mess right now. The whole city of Philadelphia has him on the trading block already. But all that said, I am going to go with the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know if I'm just trying to stick with my prediction before the series started, but I'm going with Philadelphia. I think Joel Embiid is huge. And here's the key. And I think that the Philadelphia coaching staff, I'm sure they're drilling this into his head. Pace yourself. All right, we need you to be big, but pace yourself. Don't blow everything in the first half. All right, go out there, play strong early, but save some for the second half. So pace yourself, and I think that's what Embiid does. And I think he not only plays strong in the first half, but in the second half as well. Tobias Harris comes out. Tobias, I do think, is a mentally strong player. Their 4-point game in Game 5 was just a complete aberration. He's typically 20-plus, and I think he's going to give you about 20 points. And so I'm going to go with Philadelphia to win this game and take it back home.
Well, the thing is that you said Joel Embiid needs to pace himself. Even Clint Capella says is that, we just wear him down and then we have our way with him in the second half late in the ball game. And that's what But Joel Embiid, Skip, if you notice, he's going at Clint Capella. He's yelling and screaming at him, burning a lot of energy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got a tech in Game 5. Yelling and screaming at Joel Embiid. I think it was 7 of 7, maybe 8 of 8 in the first quarter, had 17, 18 points.
Yep.
Yeah. So with that being said, I agree with you, Chris. Maybe he needs to pace himself. But this is coming down to Ben Simmons. Because the reason why no lead is safe is because we can always resort to hack a Ben, which will stop the clock and give us. He ain't finna make 10 or 10 free throws. He's not going to make 20 or 20 because you remember that one game they hacked Dwight Howard. He shot 38 free throws. If necessary, that's what we'll do with Ben Simmons. We'll put him on the line, and what is the likelihood if they send Ben Simmons to the line 25, 30 times that he make 20 of those? I think it's going to build back because what is he, 12 or 36 right now? So I like my chances if we have to resort to that tactic of hack a Ben. He hasn't been well. And so Doc is going to have to make a decision, and I'm sure they've cleared this up organizationally. If we get in this situation, you guys are going to have to be comfortable with me sitting Ben Simmons' butt on the bench because that's costing us. And I understand I don't want to do any more damage to his psyche, but he's already in his own head, Skip. I can't do it any worse. So he's already there. And considering the Hawks haven't shot the three-point ball well, with the exception of the first game, they probably do to have one of these at the State Farm Arena. The highlight factory is going to be full effect. The barbershops are going to be capacity. The crowd's going to be out. Quavo, 2 Chainz, all the stars going to be in the house. And now that you mention it, O'Shea might pull up. Get me one of those seats on the front. And hey, yeah, Skip, we in the building, baby. But Ice Trae, you gonna put some respect on Ice Trae's name before it's all said and done. You talked about him bad against the Knicks. And look what he did. Sitting there packing. 3 All-NBA defensive players on one team, and he giving you 29 and 11. Dropped 39 last game. Ice Trae for real. Thunderstorm hits down here tonight in Georgia, and they go into the Eastern Conference Finals, baby.
So, the odds makers keep telling you quite loudly the Sixers are superior to the Hawks because tonight at State Farm, your Hawks, your darlings of Atlanta, are 3.5-point underdogs at home.
Give me the points in 3 cases.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm hanging in. You've got me on the run. I'd be stupid to do this. But I will tell you that the pressure has swung wildly back onto the home team tonight.
It is.
I'm not sure I would want to be in their shoes because they're going to wake up this morning thinking, oh, my God, we're just one game away from the conference finals. We're not ready for this. Who knows? Maybe a little mice trade. What if he turns into pandemic Trey tonight? What if he has one of those cold nights where he just goes cold from 3? He can stink it up. You know he's highly capable of 2 for 14 from 3. He starts jacking them up at a high rate. He's a poor 3-point shooter, and he cut it way down from 10 attempts 2 years ago to only 6 this year. But then all of a sudden, he had that 3 for 11 2 games ago because at home he feels like he's got to play to the hype. And I believe he might just jack up 15 tonight and make 3 of them. And Quavo and 2 Chainz are going to be sitting right there. Maybe the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe will be in the front row, and the pressure will mount into the fourth quarter, and maybe Joel will show up for once in the fourth quarter because he just keeps hitting the physical wall. I think he's just not in very good shape. And you're right, he's got to pace himself in the first quarter and the second quarter and try to be there for his team when they need him because I don't think Ben Simmons will be. And I agree with Chris. Doc's on a hot seat tonight, and I love Doc, and I wish I could have played for Doc because I think he's as charming and personable and fun to be around as anybody I've ever been around in my many, many years of covering the NBA. But the truth is, alarming trend, blown leads throughout his playoff coaching career, and they blew 3 in a row last year, up 3-1 on Denver in the bubble with leads of 16, 19, and 12. And now they've blown an 18-point lead and a 26-point lead back-to-back. It can't happen again. You have the better team. You have to play bigger and better. And one quick point about Tobias Harris. The one game they dominated at Atlanta was Game 3, and it was 127-111 Sixers. Tobias in that game earned his $33 million a year with 22, 8, and 5. And I'm with Chris. I expect those numbers from Tobias tonight.
But you mentioned, you said the mind, Chris was talking about, mentally and not getting in their own head. We saw what happened with the Clippers last year. They blew one lead, and they're like, oh, we get that back. We can make those corrections. And then they blew another lead. And they're like, oh, we can get that back, and we can correct this in Game 7. We still got the game, in our building. And then they blew another one. So what are you thinking the Sixers are saying? Just like the mind says, you know what? I'm a superstar. I'm supposed to do this because the mind is the greatest thing that an athlete can possess. It's not his size. It's not his strength. It's not his speed. It's his mind. So what's in the Sixers' mind? Don't you tell me for 1 second, Skip Bayless, that they don't know they blew an 18-point lead and got tracked down. They blew a 26-point lead at home, got tracked down. And now they're on the road, and Ice Trae going to close them out.
Okay.
You're going to learn tonight.
All right, but wait a second. It's up to Doc to provide them with a strategic change tonight, at least a tweak that will reinstill confidence in them that we're the better team and we're going to do it this way tonight. I believe he will.
Well, what's he going to do, Chris? Give Joel Embiid an IV in the third quarter so he don't be blowed for the rest of the game? Because he blowed.
Halftime. And look, I think you're right. I think he's going to get Ben out of there. Shake Milton's going to have to step up. And, Matisse Thybulle defensively is going to have to do a good. They're not going to shut Trae down. But I think Trae's not going to have one of those historic nights. I think he's going to be in the 20s. And I don't think he's going to be that efficient. So I think Matisse Thybulle, they got to put Matisse Thybulle on Trae like a jersey. All right, he has got to be swarming Trae. And those are the things they need to do, I think, to win this game.
I don't know how this one plays out. I expect a response from the 76ers, but that home crowd in Atlanta, possibly led by Shannon all the way.
Yeah, the highlight factory, baby.
Worries me just a little bit. Chris, we appreciate you joining us throughout the show.
No mercy.
Tomorrow on Fox, Nolan Arenado and the Cardinals take on Ronald Acuna Jr. and the Braves, or the White Sox battle the Astros, or Reds Padres. It all starts 7 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. So check local listings for the game in your area. And don't miss your chance to win $1,000 of Big Papi's money during the Cardinals-Braves game. So scan the QR code to download the free-to-play Fox Bet Super 6 app and answer 6 questions about innings 7, 8, 9 for your shot to win some of that Big Papi moolah. Guys, Patrick Mahomes became the latest victim of Tom Brady's greatness during February's Super Bowl. We all remember that. But they both will share the cover of Madden NFL 22. The league's 2 most recent Super Bowl MVPs were unveiled as co-cover athletes of the game's MVP edition, which will be released in August. So, Shannon, how do you feel about this? Do you like them sharing the cover?
I do like it, Skip. I think the thing is, Skip, for the most part, this is the match that everybody wants to see the rematch. Everybody wants to see Mahomes and Brady do this all over again. And I think because Mahomes has had so much success at an early age, an MVP in his first year as a starter, a Super Bowl MVP. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. I think a lot of people believe, Skip, he's really the only guy that's current that could have a comparable. I'm not saying he could catch or even surpass what Brady's doing, but they believe because he's had such success and he's only 25 years of age, he can have a comparable career to Tom Brady. I like the fact, because if you think about it, Skip, as great as Tom Brady is, nobody's really playing with Tom Brady. It's kind of like the Michael Vick, Skip. Everybody wanted to play with the Falcons, even though the Falcons in Madden was terrible. But you got an opportunity to play with Michael Vick. And it was like a lot of people you could pick any team, you just couldn't get the Falcons because you couldn't tackle Michael Vick. But in this game with Mahomes, Skip, because he throw any kind of pass, he can do anything. People like playing with the Chiefs, especially with all that speed. But all that being said, Skip, I think it's a great look. I really like it. And you got to remember, Skip, when Tom Brady got into the league, they just had him as the quarterback number 12. I mean, my guy already on the cover, man. This might be his second time on the cover already. So I like the fact that he and Brady are sharing the cover. I don't like it as much as the cover that you and I did. I don't know if Jim, you got the cover that me and Skip did together? I don't think you saw. Jenny, you saw. Did you see the cover that Skip and I did?
I saw it, and you know what I wrote?
Yeah, there you go, Skip.
You know
That's
what I
us,
wrote,
Skip.
Shannon?
That's
I said I feel left out, because I'm curious.
That's us, Skip. That's us, Skip.
Did you notice that, Skip? You know, Shannon has a side gig as a graphic designer, so.
You know, that's the new game that's coming out, baby, the two goats.
Why are you wearing sunglasses so people can't see your eyes to see what you might have done the night before?
Yeah. I'm a little buzzed right
You're
now.
giving it away, obviously, what you were doing the night before. In the next version, Shannon, can I just be in the corner, please? I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm going to have you looking over our shoulder, Jenny.
Just like peeking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have only one question about this cover.
Okay.
Why is Patrick Mahomes on this cover?
You know
Can somebody
why.
explain
I knew.
this?
Baby, go.
Wait.
Baby, go.
He just lost the Super Bowl to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He also lost an AFC championship game at home to Tom Brady. And last year, during the regular season, Tom Brady was graded higher by Pro Football Focus than Patrick Mahomes. So can somebody please explain why Tom Brady, the obvious GOAT, doesn't deserve a solo cover? Hasn't he earned that?
No.
Is this simply about he's about to turn 44 years of age and Patrick Mahomes is still a baby GOAT at 25?
Yeah.
So are we catering to the younger audience here because Tom Brady's an old man? Well, the old man outplayed the young man in the Super Bowl. That's all I know, and I believe he'll outplay him again if they rematch in the Super Bowl. So why don't you ever give the GOAT his due, Madden 22?
He's on, Skip. He's on the cover. Okay, you know how retail works. We trying to sell things. We trying to sell it. It's not going to sell as much with him on the cover. Okay, so now we put Baby Goat on there. Now the thing's selling like candy bars.
Okay. Well, if you want to sell our cover, you just leave me on it by myself.
That's coming.
No. Skip, we try to get this thing worldwide. We try to do global. So that's why, I put that thing together, you and I mean, hey, everybody talk about that's the game they want.
Okay, I got it. But didn't I just read a story 2 days ago that in overall Q rating and just internet, like influencer rating?
Yeah.
Isn't Brady number one? So, Madden, I think you're missing the boat here. Just put Brady on the cover.
Skip, a lot of guys that play Madden, they ain't the biggest Brady fans.
Well, okay.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, but maybe it would be, even if there's just Brady hate, maybe they're still going to buy 22 just to hate on Brady.
No, but see, now we got my homeboy on there. They're like, you know what? My homeboy on that thing. Okay, Brady ain't that bad. Let's go ahead and rock with it.
I just picture you, Shannon, editing all those photos, you and Skip. You work hard. You getting all those pictures in there. Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, Skip, do you approve of that?
I look good in that jersey.
Honestly, I'm not going to lie.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
For you. It's a good look.
No, you don't.
It's a good look, and shades really sell it.
No mercy.
Tomorrow, the TSL Mega Bowl is on Fox. Catch the linemen as they battle the Jousters for the championship crown. The action begins tomorrow at 3 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. So we're just about a month away from the release of Space Jam: A New Legacy. And Skip, you tweeted about a new promo for the film last night saying this: wait, they're advertising the new counterfeit Space Jam as the bunny and the goat. Is Jordan in it? They can't be referring to the guy who just flamed out in the first round of the playoffs, can they? The guy who's 4-6 in finals? The one without a clutch gene? Who can't shoot? I just want to say I don't support everything in that statement. Shannon, what is your response?
Because if that's the case, Jordan went out 3 times in the first round. Do you remember what Jordan was when he was in D.C.? So stop pretending, Skip Bayless. You always trying to drag up old stuff. My guy's still the GOAT. We've never seen a player play this well, this long into his career. And he was the MVP front runner until Solomon Hill all of a sudden in the first quarter of a game wanted to dive on the floor for a loose ball. You know that, and I know that.
I don't know that.
And then, because when he and AD were both on the court, they had the best record in the NBA. They had the best record in the West. They were 21-6. AD got hurt, and then a couple of weeks later, LeBron went down. And they were never able to recapture what they had going at the start of the season. But they got it right. The bunny and the GOAT. This is very, very fitting for King James, who's the new GOAT.
The bunny as in Bugs Bunny and the goat as in LeBron James?
LeBron James.
Maybe they're referring, does Jordan have a cameo that we're not aware of? Maybe that's who they're referring to as the goat?
No, he does not have a cameo in this one.
You know, Shannon, I got to tell you, the more I watch these ads night after night, they're just bombarding me during the playoff games. It gets more and more offensive that LeBron James is trying to recreate Space Jam as the new Jordan. That's what's happening here. It's this pathetic attempt at fame by association.
Ain't no fame by association.
Just leave it be. I wish he just left it alone. There's only one Space Jam. LeBron should have started something new that's his own. Put your stamp on something new.
It's two Space Jam. And guess what? If Warner Brothers did not want it to be a second Space Jam, it would not have been one. So clearly they wanted another one.
How can you proclaim LeBron James the GOAT when Jordan won 10 scoring titles to LeBron's 1?
So
how can you call this man the GOAT when he is, as I pointed out in the tweet, 4-6 in the finals, and the other guy, the guy in Chicago, went 6-0 with 6 MVPs? How can you even dare to dare the God above with this kind of blasphemy in a national TV commercial?
Because you said Tom Brady's the GOAT, and Tom Brady is not undefeated in Super Bowls like Joe Montana is. So clearly, losses does not impact whether or not you're the GOAT. So since that's being said, LeBron James is the GOAT until further notice. And we're going to get more titles because you think we're done. We're going to get another title next year.
It's your 19th year. Father Time was tapping you on the shoulder this year.
No, the injury tapped us on the shoulder.
Well, you've been the most durable superstar ever, and all of a sudden, you turn your ankle and you're gone for 7 weeks?
Yeah.
What is that about?
Well, Kawhi was going to lay the ball up, and all of a sudden he can't. Now he gone for how long? You can't just say just because it was a sprain, it looked innocuous, that it wasn't, the severity of it is decreased because it didn't look like he broke his ankle. It did. It impacted his play. You know it. It kept him out for 7 weeks, and he came back and not have an opportunity to rehabilitate and get back into the floor game. They just threw him right back in there. You know that, and I know that. There's going to be a Space Jam 2. It's going to be a blockbuster, going to do over $200 million, and you're going to go watch it.
Kawhi is about to need surgery on his knee. So one guy needs surgery, the other guy turned his ankle and stayed in the game long enough to make a three from the corner and jog off the floor.
Hold on. And Kawhi stayed in the game and was able to drive the ball to the basket and get fouled again.
It was Kobe-esque. It was like Kobe shooting the free throws on his torn Achilles.
Well, hold on. So he got to get surgery. Well, why was Tom Brady playing the whole year then? Because his knee was so bad, he needed surgery after the season. How was he able to play the whole year?
Because he sucked it up and played hurt the whole year. And think about, with a whole year under his belt with a brand new team, turning the Succaneers into Tampa Bay, and now he's got a healthy knee. You better look out because he's going to deserve the 23 Madden cover by himself.
You know what happened, Skip? You remember LeBron's first year in L.A.? He hurt his groin, and you and others said he was washed. What did he do the following year, Skip? If you don't mind me asking, it's not that far in the back. He hurt his groin, missed a bunch of games, and everybody said he was washed. Said, I told you, the only reason he came to be Michael Jordan. He wanted to be a 6'9" Kevin Hart. You made all your little snide comments.
Yeah.
What happened the following year?
He got to play the 5th seed in the finals in the bubble without its leading playoff scorer and its heart and soul, Dragic and Bam. Way to go, LeBron. Congratulations. You get a cubic zirconia ring for that.
Just so you guys know, the movie is out July 16th. So, yes, we will actually see LeBron in the finals. He'll be there. He'll be all over. He'll be all over everyone's screen. And so many.
Hater in the house.
So many ways I will be there opening night.
No mercy.
And despite being without Kawhi, the Clippers took a 3-2 series lead over the Jazz on Wednesday behind Paul George's 37 points and have a chance to close out the series tonight at home. So, Shannon, what is Paul George's line tonight, and what is the score?
I think without Kawhi being there, Paul will get as many shots as he wants. I just don't think the points that he scored tonight will be as impactful as the ones he scored the other night, Skip. I'm going to give his stat line. I'm going to say 30, 10, and 5. 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. But I just don't think they'll have the impact that they had in the previous game. And I say Utah wins a very close ball game, Skip. I'm going to go 102. I'm going to say 102 to 98.
I'm going to say that my wife, Ernestine, makes it to die for pea soup, and I'm going to have a big bowl of pea soup before I watch playoff P tonight go 35, 15, and 10, triple-double, and I watch the Clippers win their way into their first-ever conference finals, 105 to 102. Thank you very much.
Can we get a couple of cases to do on that, since you're so confident?
I'll do one case to do because I don't want to jinx them any more than one case because I told you I'm picking hard overhead, but I still believe in playoff P.
In one case that he doesn't have that stat line.
Playoff P. Pea soup. Could I have some? Yes, Ernest.
Yes,
save
it's
me
very
some.
good.
Skip,
It's a
Shannon,
pandemic
enjoy
thing.
the weekend. Enjoy all the games. The Herders on now. We'll break it down Monday. Have a good one.